Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent video for this week, for the week of May 2nd to May 8th, and hopefully you guys had enjoyed, say, May the 4th, though, aka Star Wars days and all that stuff, though. I didn't see anything big or anything like that, other than maybe a new series coming to Disney Plus or something like that, and outside that, and obviously the rumors about a Mandalorian video game might be in development, which, assuming that's true, I would say there's so many ways they could get it right, but there are so many ways they can also get it wrong at the same time, and we've seen that before in the past with Star Wars games and all that stuff. So if it is true, my fingers are crossed that they get it right, and I would love to see it if it's possible, if they could do it, bring it to the Nintendo Switch. I would definitely be down with that. But anyway, though, we got 4 stories to cover this week, including Nintendo releasing their financial report, to a new game that they announced called Game Builder Garage, some issues emerging with the Returnal, the exclusive, or the exclusive for the PlayStation 5, and even we are getting some information in regards of the whole Apple versus Epic lawsuit. And again, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're interested, all the stories though, interested in the stories I'm talking about, I'll have a link down in the description where you could take a look at where I got some of this information and all. But before we get started, we'll do the quick My 2 Cent part. These are stories that caught my attention, but I'm not going to go into a huge amount of details. The first one is that apparently NIS America has announced the release dates for their upcoming game called Prime Presents, if I'm saying the name correctly, NIS Classic Volume 1. According to Nintendo Life, the report is that the game is set to hit August 31st, and it will contain 2 games, Soul Nomad and The World Eater, and Phantom Brave We Meet Again, which was released on, that one was released on the Wii though. It's going to be interesting to see how well those games do on the Nintendo Switch. We know NIS America has sort of been bringing a lot of games to the Switch though, and assuming this one does well, maybe we'll see more support from NIS America, and who knows, maybe they'll do an actual sequel to Phantom Brave and Soul Nomad and The World Eater. I mean, we're getting Disgaea 6, as I believe it's exclusive for the Nintendo Switch, so certainly not out of the realm of possibility. But as we know, the game is set to launch in August. We also learned that Shadow Warriors 3 though is there are plans that the game is going to be coming to the PS4 and Xbox One, which is nice though. I do enjoy the Shadow Warriors game. 1 and 2 are actually good though, so I'm glad to hear that it's coming to those systems, because at this point it was the only announcement we had, the only thing we knew that it was obviously going to be coming to PC. But it's nice to know that they are bringing it to the PS4 and the Xbox One, although no word on whether or not there will be any kind of enhancement for those who play it on the PS5 or the Xbox Series S or X, or if there's going to be it's going to be a PS5 or Xbox Series S and X version, and they'll do a smart delivery. At this time, we don't know at that moment, though. We also learned that there is a report coming out claiming that the PlayStation 5 might get a redesign. This may have to do with trying to get some of the parts and all that stuff, and some of the issues trying to get the system out for people to buy, since it's still very hard to find a PS5 and all that. We also learned that some performance options will be available for the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which is certainly nice that there's a sort of a graphical options for this game though. I believe the Xbox Series S, which is the system I have, I believe there is an option for higher resolution or a higher frame rate. Assuming I do decide to get the game, I'll probably aim for the higher frame rate. I'm more of a gameplay over graphics kind of a person. We also learned that EA has acquired the studio of basically of the creators of Super Mega Baseball developers called Meathead Software and all, which not everyone is pleased with that. Some of it has to do with EA's reputation of closing down studios, especially when EA makes some decisions that doesn't always sit very well. We saw what happened with Visceral Games, and what happened with games like Dead Space 3 and all that. We've also seen what happened with Mythic Entertainment when we had the whole I think it was the Dungeon Keeper that was released on mobile devices and the backlash that generated. So yeah, I could see why not everyone is pleased with this announcement. We also learned that basically that one of the stories that we're talking about, the Epic versus Apple lawsuit, has revealed some very interesting information, and one of them has to be that it seems as though Phil Spencer is still working as far as back as last year to get xCloud on multiple systems, including the Nintendo Switch and all that stuff. Whether that happens or not remains to be seen. We've heard rumors about this before, but it's very interesting what's coming out of this lawsuit. We also learned basically Toys for Bot and Activision has responded to the claim about basically Toys for Bot now focusing on Call of Duty. Activision has responded by saying that the information of layoffs is not true, and that they are still committed to Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, and all that stuff. Whether they stick with that or not remains to be seen, but I can understand why not everyone is pleased with it, because it just gives the impression that the only game that Activision is known for is Call of Duty, even though that may not be true. That's their moneymaker, and so that's sort of the reputation they have earned, especially given Activision's history, particularly with their CEO, of laying off employees to basically put money in their pockets and all that. And last but not least, we did see the first trailer for Paramount Plus, the revival of Rugrats, or the Rugrats reboot. And based on what I saw on the trailer, I have to say I'm kind of mixed on this, though. I mean, on one hand, the show could be good. I'm not saying it's going to be bad or anything like that. It's way too early to say until the show comes out, which I believe is May 25th, though. But at the same time, I can't help but feel that part of me would have liked to see them do one where basically Tommy, Chucky, Phil and Lil, Susie, Angelica, Kimmy, now they are the adults now. They have to deal with situations that adults have to deal with today, while also dealing with, them having kids and their babies going on wild adventures and all that stuff. So part of me kind of wishes that Paramount Plus and Nickelodeon did that, though. But either way, we'll see how the show is when it launches, I believe May 25th, and we'll see how well people react to it, to old school Rugrats fans like me, to the new generation. So time will ultimately tell if this show takes off or not. Okay, with the My 2 Cents story, the quick My 2 Cent part now done, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with the whole issue between Epic and Apple, and this has to do with basically some of the policies Apple has put up in terms of certainly with the microtransactions and all that really has sort of put Epic going to battle, duking them out with them, though. So last year we started to see the lawsuit generated, though. Epic started to sue Apple and all that stuff. Some situations such as Apple retaliating by not allowing developers to use the Unreal Engine or anything like that, until a judge had to basically tell Apple, no, you can't do that. You gotta let developers, you may have an issue with Epic, but you cannot prevent developers using Epic's engine, Unreal and all that stuff. And well, we're starting to see some interesting information that has come out about it, though, to basically, and basically what we're hearing from the lawsuit and the court battle so far. The first article from basically, let me get it out here. Oh, okay, here it is. All right, it's from the NPR, National Public Radio. It does point out everything about the case. It says, quote, "What exactly is the case? Epic accused Apple of running its App Store as an illegal monopoly because it only allows in-app purchases on iPhone to be processed by Apple's own payment system on its more than 1 billion iPhone around the world, and it typically tacks on a 30% commission on every purchase." Excuse me. Epic says the fee, which critics call the Apple tax, is apparently unfair and falls heavily on smaller app developers who then are at a disadvantage trying to compete with Apple's own app that avoids the fee. The money made from the commission is an important and growing revenue stream for Apple. Part of the fee and subscription that generates $54 billion in the last fiscal years. Analysts say the sales in this segment are completely important considering how iPhone sales peaked a year ago. The 30% cut is necessary, according to Apple, to safeguard the privacy and safety of apps on Apple devices. Excuse me. Epic's estimated Apple's profit from the App Store fees is nearly 80%, a stunning figure that Apple calls simply wrong. Simply wrong, though. Other question is, quote, where has Apple's App Store come under fire? They mentioned that lawmakers in Washington held a hearing last month focusing on the power of tech giant app stores. Justice Department investigators are reportedly probing Apple's App Store rules. And last week, European Union regulation brought charges against Apple for allegedly breaking European antitrust laws by abusing its dominant position for the distribution of music streaming app. The decision followed complaints against Apple made by Sweden-based Spotify, though. The question asks how strong is Epic's case and who would win, though. It mentions, quote, Epic was able to clear enough procedure hurdles, if I'm not saying it correctly, to advance this far. So federal judge believes Epic case at least warrants a full trial. Under U.S. laws, however, plaintiffs face an uphill battle in winning antitrust case since the courts have long interpreted the country's century-old competition laws in a way that tends to favor larger corporations. In a pretrial decision, the judge hinted that she was skeptic about Epic's argument that Apple is violating the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890 by acting like an illegal monopoly. Even still, proving that Apple is a monopoly will not be enough, since that alone is not illegal under U.S. law. Instead, Epic must show that Apple abused that alleged monopoly power to hurt competitors and distort an entire market in its favor. Experts say that it's a high bar to clear. Both sides waive their rights to a jury trial, meaning there is a bench trial decided. Whether her ruling a draw-out appeal process is all but guaranteed. So I said that the trial is set to stretch out in for 3 weeks. It could be more and all that stuff. But what's interesting is some of the information that has started to come out of this, though. We are learning about that has come out in regards of this, though. Some of the information has come out in regards of the fact that there may have been a push to put Samus Aran into Fortnite and all that. We've also learned about the issue about crossplay and some of the issue about Sony, some of the policy Sony has been doing that, well, let's just say it's certainly gotten some backlash, if you all remember about Sony's policy about crossplay and all that stuff. But one interesting thing is that apparently coming out of this lawsuit, we're learning about a policy Nintendo has sort of put in there. According to the article from Nintendo Life, it sees that apparently, if you want to develop for the Nintendo, you can't be part of what is basically, or basically called the Yakuza, or the the series that Sega is known for, though, the Yakuza series. So, well, apparently, according to Nintendo, they're based from this lawsuit, you can't be part of that group. According to the article from Nintendo Life, it reads, remember all the fuss between Epic Games and Apple regarding Fortnite on the App Store? Well, the court trial involving these two giants is currently underway, and as part of legal proceedings, Nintendo has kindly provided its own publisher contract. While much of the 25-page document, which includes information on Nintendo's content license and distributing agreement, was retracted, one important detail was less visible. Nintendo's partners are forced to give assurance that neither they nor their employees are anti-social force, and that they aren't giving money or favor to these forces. But what is an anti-social force? Nintendo provides clarification by using the term BORYOKUDAN, which is a name used by the Japanese police and media for organization crime syndicates, the Yakuza, UZA, if I'm not apologizing, if I'm not saying the name correctly, though. According to the document, though, it reads that, quote, anti-special force means an organization, crime group, as I mentioned before, a member of the BORYOKUDAN, or basically, long story short, it says, basically to sum it up, though, a racketeer attempt to extortionate money from a company by threatening to cause trouble at the general stockholder meeting, or acting if advancing legitimate social causes, though, or a special intelligent organized crime group, or another group of person equivalent to any foregoing. So basically, they don't want you, if you're working with any of these kind of groups, Nintendo isn't going to work for you. But either way, though, it's very interesting how this is all playing out, to be exact, though. And it's going to be very curious to see who prevails between Apple and Epic, though. One thing I will say, though, is that although I am for the free market and everything like that, though, I do think there are some issues that I do think the monopoly issue is certainly an issue that does need to be addressed. We saw what happened in the 90s with Microsoft and Windows, how it became a monopoly where there wasn't any competitors or anything like that, though. And so I do think that this is a problem that needs to be addressed, and I'm hopeful Apple will, but we'll have to wait and see how far this lawsuit goes. So overall, very interesting information that's been coming out with this lawsuit, though, and it's going to be really interesting to see who wins, though, whether it's Apple or whether it's Epic, or if the judge basically decides, or if this gets thrown out or anything like that. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2, and this has to do with issues emerging around Returnal. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at the situation surrounding the game Returnal, if I'm saying the name correctly and all that, for the PS5, though. Now, this was one of the games that was showcased at show of basically when, the PS5 was going to come out and all that. Now, to be clear, I haven't even played the game. Most of it is because I don't have a PS5, and a PS5 is certainly hard to find at this moment right now, though. But based on the response so far, there are some who like it and some people who are having issues with it, though. Some people do like the roguelike approach that they that made to the game, but some people are not a big fan of some of the decisions that they made, including the issue with the whole save your game and all that stuff, which the developers didn't, for some reason, excuse me, and I think it's sort of ridiculous, didn't seem to implement, though. Well, it does seem that there have been some updates to it, but it seems some of the updates isn't exactly one they had to pull and then put back a fresh new update or a fresh patch to it. In several different articles, this one from Destructoid, it reads basically about the whole situation regarding Returnal, and it says, quote, "For anyone out in the loop, here is a rundown. House Marquise," if I'm saying the name correctly, said it listened to feedbacks about save, but as it stands, there isn't a mid-run backup to protect players from crashes, though, or an option to let folks quit or continue, or if life gets in the way. So the solution for now is to put your PS5 in rest mode when you need a break. They're calling this a workaround, but the game tells you to do this in a message. The idea makes sense in theory, even if it's far from ideal. Your Returnal run should still be there when you power your PS5 back up. But in practice, my results have, this person's results has been said the results may have been mixed. A lot of us don't feel like we can count on the console's rest mode to pull its weight, and when it comes to a game this challenging, with runs that can drag drag way out with it without you realizing it. That's frustrating. And now this. The caveat about auto updates and messing with the rest mode, something plenty of people are bound to miss, is only going to exacerbate the immediate need for an in-game solution. This person wrote, I had fun with Returnal, practically in the layer bio modes, BIOMES, but I'm hesitant to stick more time in the game right now. So some of it has to do with the issues of the save and all that stuff. And an article from Eurogamer has sort of basically pulled one of the patches after a corrupt save. According to the article, it says, quote, patch 1.3.3 for PS5 exclusive roguelike Returnal was pulled by developers Aulx Studio last night. And this article was written on May 6th, after it was found to have corrupt saves. So, Aulx Studio later released a follow-up patch 1.3.4 that fixed the save-related issues caused by the previous update, but the developer says those affected by the previous update, you'll get the CE 100021-8 error pop-up, would have to re-download the game. They treated, though, our sincerest policy. They also said, quote, it was a rough night for Returnal players. After the troublesome 1.3.3 patch went live, it started causing havoc with saves. Aulx Studio warned, so to be safe, don't start the game before the upcoming patch is available and downloaded. That tweet warning failed to prevent some players from downloading 1.3.3 patch, either because their PS5 auto updates the game, or because they simply don't see the message, though. With patch 1.3.4 now out, it should be safe to play Returnal with save files intact, although players are still worried about losing their hard-earned progress. It's worth going over what the patches fixes. There's a fix for an issue when certain trophies might not unlock. Unfortunately, missing trophies will need to be played to unlock, Aulx Studio says. There are stability fixes addressing the rare crash and hangs, and configuration change to increasing numbers of Scalp Corps available in all biomes, BIOMES. The Scalp Corps change relates to a feature Returnal is meant to have when you find another player body ghost, and you can choose to avenge or salvage it. So, while it's nice that they are fixing this, though, it's obviously clear this game was not ready at launch and all that stuff. And the fact that they didn't even have a save file, some form of save, like a temporary save in the beginning, is just kind of doesn't really make any sense, though. I mean, it's a whole issue. To me, it's sort of similar to the issue I have with this always online issue of the games that are always online. Not everyone has the luxury to constantly log in every single time, and to not have a save file, though, doesn't make any sense, at least, though, especially if you want to play the game and then take a break because there's something you need to take care of. And also, it seemed a bit ridiculous for what the developers were doing with the situation in regards to the whole save file and all that stuff. And the fact that the first patch they had to pull and then update it with the other patches, yeah, it's obviously clear this game was not ready at launch, though. Hopefully they could finally fix it and it'll be ironed out, though. But for right now, I can understand why some people are worried to want to jump back in, but are a bit worried given the whole situation regarding this game, though. So overall, great that the developers are addressing it, though, but it sounds like there are still some issues that developers still need to address in regards of the PS5 exclusive Returnal and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 3, and this one has to do with Nintendo announcing a new game called Game Builder Garage. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of our My 2 Cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at a new game that Nintendo has announced called Game Builder Garage, though. Now, Nintendo has made games that have been sometimes non-traditional before in the past. Some that I remember are back in the 90s with games like Mario Paint that offer the ability to paint, draw or create stuff. They had, like the Super NES mouse, and it also had that little coffee break thing. To even games like, say, Super Mario Maker, though, that we've seen released on the Wii U, and of course on the Nintendo Switch with Mario Maker 2. Games that basically allow you to sort of develop your own levels or create your own dream Mario level, to be exact, and all that. And apparently those games have certainly been a hit with a lot of fans and a lot of stuff. Now, I'll admit, I'm not a game designer. I'm not great at making levels or anything like that, but I could definitely see the appeal to some folks out there who enjoy this type of games, especially games like, say, another one I think called RPG Maker and all. Well, now it looks like Nintendo is bringing something that's kind of similar to Mario Maker in a way, to basically the Nintendo Switch, called, as I mentioned, Game Builder Garage. In an article from Game Radar, it reads that, quote, Nintendo has announced Game Builder Garage, a new programming game launched on Switch June 11th for $30. If you're into designing games, you probably heard of Dreams on PS4, but Game Building Garage looks like a more beginner's friendly take on the program gene, of course, complete with all sort of distantly Nintendo aesthetics and all. Apologies if I'm not saying it correctly, though. For anyone who has wanted to make their own video game, Game Builder Garage is the perfect place to start, said Nintendo's executive Nick Chavez. Throughout the use of guided lessons and memorable Nodons, N-O-D-O-N characters, Game Builder Garage helps make creating video games just as fun as playing them, though. Game Building Garage includes 2 distance mode. Lesson mode is a guided tutorial that walks you through the process of designing 7 predefined games, including Tag, a racing game, and a maze game with motion controls. Then there's the free program mode, which lets you run hog wild with the tools and skills you've learned. It isn't clear just how extensive Game Building Garage Toolbox is, but the above trailer shows some pretty basic stuff like assisting actions to directional pad and customizing obstacles. Like Super Mario Maker, you can share your creations with friends locally or over the internet, and you can check out other folks' games in the same space. You can also go into free program mode on other people's games if you want to see how they pulled something off. Finally, to simulate the field of building a game on a PC, you could plug a mouse into your Switch dock's USB port and navigate the software that way. Don't get too excited though, as there's no mention of keyboard support in the press release. So it's definitely an interesting approach that Nintendo is making. It sounds something very similar to what Mario Maker is, and I could definitely see to the appeal that it will have for some folks out there, though. Again, I'm not into those type of games as much, though, but I could definitely see why some people would like those type of games. That said, there are some questions that basically do have to ask about it. Is it the approach similar to what we've been hearing about Mario Maker, where after a while they'll delete your levels if you post it online? What are some of the limitations that we're going to see? I can't, based on what they showed so far, based on just the trailer alone, I can't randomly see how someone's going to make, say, a game as big as, say, what Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is, or a game like what the PS4 God of War is going to be. So I do wonder just how far, just what kind of limitations are being set for a game like this, though. So there are still some questions that have to be asked about it, but based on everything it is that they showed so far, it does sound like if you are a fan of games like the Mario Maker games, the Mario Maker or Mario Maker 2, then this is one you should probably consider taking a look at, though. So overall, very interesting game that Nintendo has announced, though, and it will be very curious to see, assuming it garnishes support and assuming the support is there, what games some folks might be able to make. Some of it might be simple, some of it may not be simple, although I will, like I said before, some of that might be just how far the game will let you push and what limitations might be there and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to our fourth and final part of our My 2 Cent video, and this one has to do with Nintendo finally releasing their financial report. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fourth and final part of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at Nintendo's financial report. Now, last week we've heard from both Sony and Microsoft, and they certainly put out some pretty good numbers. The PS5 is doing very well for Sony, despite the fact that it is extremely hard to find a PS5. I've mentioned this many times. And even Microsoft is doing well with basically the Xbox Series S and X, although recent reports have come out that they are selling it at a loss and all that stuff, although Game Pass is doing well for them. So now Nintendo it's now Nintendo's turn, and we got the results from their quarter earning and financial report, and it seems that despite the Switch being out since 2017, and despite the new PS5 and Xbox Series S and X out, the Switch is still doing very well for Nintendo indeed. In several different reports, the first one we'll read from basically from Nintendo World Report. It reads that, quote, Nintendo has released their results for their fiscal year spanning April 1st, 2020 to March 31st, 2021 overnight, and with it is an estimate of their now current fiscal year. In their hardware sales department, it reads that, quote, Nintendo's shipment for the fiscal year came to a total of 28.83 million, with 4.8 million in the fourth quarter. The breakdown for the quarter was 3.62 million Switches and 1.18 million Switch Lites. The Switch Life to date shipment now totals 84.59 million, putting it past the Game Boy Advance 81.51 million. Should it meet its guidelines for hardware, it will surpass the Wii, becoming the best-selling Nintendo home console ever and third best-selling platform behind the Game Boy Color and the Nintendo DS. I will say, I do agree that given things standing right now, if Nintendo can continue to make that momentum, we could see this overpassing the Wii, and that would be something indeed. I will agree with that, though. In terms of hardware, basically, here's what they're saying, though. Nintendo had 3 software launches in the quarterly worldwide, though Buddy Mission Bond was only sold in Japan, while Bravely Default 2 was the only published by Nintendo in the rest of the world. Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury, the main game of the quarter, shipped 5.59 million copies to retails and digitals. For comparison, the Wii U originally shipped 5.86 million copies in its lifetime. So, sure, it's certainly under what the Wii U was, but not, to me, it doesn't sound like by a huge amount, though. Other software highlights, though. Animal Crossing and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe continue their battle to be the best-selling Switch title with respective shipment of 1.45 million and 1.98 million for total LTD of 32.63 million and 35.39 million retrospectively. Great that Animal Crossing and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is doing very well. Not that I don't think Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is a bad game, but it does, given how well that game is doing, it does raise question about, will we ever see a Mario Kart 9? Kind of similar to the situation with Grand Theft Auto, particularly with Grand Theft Auto 5 continuing to sell very well. It raises the question of, will we ever see a Grand Theft Auto 6 or anything like that? Anyway, continue on. The Switch's 20 million club also grew, with Smash Brothers shipping 90 990K. Breath of the Wild shipping 830K, Pokemon Sword and Shield shipping 750K, and Super Mario Odyssey shipping 600K. The new LED are 23.84 million, 22.28 million, 21.1 million, and 20.83 million retrospectively. Mario 3D All-Stars wrapped up its initial shipment with a quarter of 690K and a new LED of 9.1 million, while Ring Fit Adventure is the newest member of the Switch's 10 million club with 1.43 million in the quarter and 10.11 million overall. In terms of the projectile for financial indication, 1,600 billion in revenue, 500 billion operation profile, 400 be ordinary profit. Hardware and software prediction: 25.5 million combined. Switch's shipment: 190 million units of software. No unannounced change to the release stats at this time. Nintendo is citing the continued effort of the global pandemic and the global semiconductor shortage for the projectile being down year over year for their current positions. Other announcements they made is Illumination Entertainment CEO has been nominated to the Nintendo Board of Directors, with the election to occur at the Nintendo Annual Meeting of Shareholders on June 29th. Illumination is working with Nintendo on the Super Mario Bros. Animated film and recently expressed interest in continuing the relationship with Nintendo. That's kind of interesting to see seeing someone being elected to the board of Nintendo on that. So I'm a little mixed on it, though. I understand they want to bring some new faces, but bringing someone who's worked on just animation, not really 100% sure about that, though. So we'll see what happens on June 29th, whether this person gets elected or not. We also learned a couple other things too, as well, and some of this is from Nintendo Life. It reads that, quote, when you look at Nintendo game sales, however, the power of evergreen releases shine throughout. Animal Crossing New Horizon was the bestseller, but it had less than 2 weeks of sales in the last financial year, so it's pretty fresh for these figures. Other newcomers to do well last year were Super Mario 3D All-Stars, as I mentioned, a little over 9 million, and of course Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser Fury. After that, however, the upper reach of this list is full of older titles. Ring Fit Adventure certainly enjoys the benefit of gamers stuck at home and looking to keep fit, and a range of titles no doubt perform as well as the new Switch owners scoop up highly regarded and visible titles. Familiar brands also suit with the zaniness of 2020 use circumstances. Sold millions of copies, range from Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild to Super Mario Party. Other new releases had mixed fortunes. 3.7 million sales of Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. It's a record for the Musou series of games. Sales a little over 3 million for games like Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classic and Paper Mario The Origami King are to be stuffed at, but in contents of a whopping year, they were outgunned by various veterans on the Switch scene. 1.5 million copies for Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is likely considered solid, considering it's more of a niche IP. Though Mario Kart Live Home Circuits managed just 1.27 million in that list. We love to know what Nintendo thought of that eternally. While a neat idea and a lot of fun for the right audience with a convenient space to play, it was quite expensive and never going to get close to the recent recreating buzz of a full Mario game for the system. So obviously, some of their titles like Xenoblade Chronicles and Hyrule Warrior Age of Calamity certainly did well, but obviously not on the same level as some of the bigger titles and all that stuff. And obviously with the pandemic, though, it certainly made, I will say, when you hear about that, it's kind of was sort of an interesting situation for the gaming industry. On one hand, because of the people had to stay at home due to the COVID-19 pandemic, obviously the gaming industry saw a big boost and shall we say, a lot of money of people spending on games to try to keep themselves occupied while they're at home. You could say the same thing about streaming service. But on the other hand, it kind of created an interesting situation, because due to remote work and people staying at home, though, that also led to several games being delayed. So obviously, games that were supposed to come out in 2020 obviously may have been pushed back to, say, 2021. And interestingly enough, though, Nintendo is expecting to see, from what I understand, are anticipating a drop, according to basically Nintendo Life. It reads that, quote, "It's worth noting, however, that Nintendo and gaming benefit significantly due to unique circumstances of the past year. Nintendo estimated its sales to drop by 9% in the coming years, with the net profit expected to come out at a drop of 29.2%. Even with those declines that happen, however, the company will still be making an impressive profit. There are, however, a lot of uncertainty that influence and potentially cause drop in operating profit. For example, Nintendo has cited ongoing uncertainty over COVID-19 as a factor, along with issues preceding parts of the manufacturing. Nintendo forecasts are based on the premise that Nintendo will secure parts and resources it needs. As some of you are aware, there's a whole issue with the superconductor, and a lot of businesses are being affected, not just video game industries, but also other industries as well. We also need to see what the second half of the year will include for Nintendo in terms of major games, product, and maybe hardware integration. In other words, rumors of whether or not the Switch Pro or Switch 2 is going to happen, though. I still personally believe that Nintendo will still stick with the Switch design for a while, but I certainly can see a Switch Pro or a new Nintendo Switch or Switch 2 happening, as well as what do I expect the Switch 2 to be, or whatever it's going to be called. I'm leaning more towards it being something like what we saw from went from the 3DS to the new 3DS. I do expect to see some improvements to it, though, but I'm not sure it's going to be the graphical leap and bound that some people are making it sound like it is. But we'll see if that happens or not, though. But overall, it seems Nintendo is doing very well. The Switch continues to do very well for Nintendo, even though it's still hard to find one. Although I will admit, I've been seeing Switch Lite, so it's basically you can find a Switch, but it's more on the Switch Lite than the regular Switch and all that stuff. And it's going to be very interesting to see how their next fiscal quarter is going to be, especially with the certainly since we're in a sort of the pandemic. As far as the pandemic go, we're in a better position than we were last year, although the semiconductor is still an issue, to be exact. And it's going to be curious to see what Nintendo shows off for the second half, though. We know they're going to E3, so we'll have to see what they show at E3 this year, even though it will be a digital-only event. And I believe Gamescom, if I remember reading this correctly, will also be digital-only. So a lot of uncertainty for 2021 and what we could expect, though. But it seems that, like I said, like Sony, like Microsoft, Nintendo seems to be doing very well, and the momentum for the Switch certainly hasn't died down, at least at this time, though. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about the whole court battle between Epic and Apple, though? Do you think Apple is in the right? Do you think Epic's in the right? Do you think neither of them are in the right, though? And what are your thoughts about certain information starting to come out that what we're learning, such as the whole why Sony and the issue of crossplay, to Samus Aran, the thought of tossing around Samus Aran being in Fortnite. What are your thoughts about the issue with Returnal, though? Are you enjoying the game, or do you think there's still issues that have to be addressed and all that stuff, particularly with the save issue and all that? What are your thoughts about the game building Garage? Do you think it's a neat game? Do you think it will take off in any way? Do you think it will have any kind of success? Do you think it will be as good as, say, like Super Mario Maker 2, or was when that game was launched? And what are your thoughts about Nintendo's fiscal earnings, though? Do you think these are good numbers indeed? Do you think the pandemic, in a way, helped Nintendo and the industry as a whole, as it basically a lot of people had to basically, stay at home and all that stuff, though? Do you think this is a sign to indicate that Nintendo will release a newer version of the Switch? Do you think it will be out? And if so, do you think it will be out this year, or do you think it will be out next year? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal Me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, wish you all a good day then. Bye!